This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
At the close of polls for today's presidential elections in La République du Cameroon, eyes will be watching to see what numbers come in from the occupied territories of southern Cameroons. I'm Innocent Chia.
Fellow Ambazonians, this is a wake-up call for a boycott of the election that French Cameroon forces upon us. The die is cast. I am Chris Ano.
I want to salute Ground Zero. I want to salute all that people the way they come out for that October 1st. We don't get we nation back. My name is Alex Ndianda.
To Ambazonians in the United States of America, we must get together now and put our money and energy to get the much needed political clout in the US. They will champion our cause. Lambert, Mom.
This is so far the bloodiest of all battles for the restoration of our homeland. It is bloodier than Operation Smooth that took place at Dadi with more than 186 slaughtered.
Today is supposed to be election day in next door Cameroon, but it is a foregone conclusion. Everyone knows what the results are going to be. The Washington Post has an interesting story by Jonathan Moores, and it reads in part, Cameroonians head to the polls Sunday to re-elect Paul Biya as president, a foregone conclusion despite the country's acute crisis. In the north, the government is still engaged with terrorist group Boko Haram, while a devastating uprising in English-speaking areas in the northwest and southwest has enveloped the country's politics. Biya, age 85, has been in power for an incredible 36 years. He will win these elections, but not because he's the most popular candidate. Rather, Cameroon is one of Africa's most enduring electoral authoritarian regimes. While multi-party elections exist on paper, these elections are not free and fair and are tilted in the regime's favor. Cameroon's state apparatus was established right after the country's independence in 1960 from French and British colonial rule. Today, Biya is able to use nearly exclusive control of political appointments and state institutions to both position supporters and punish detractors with ease. With Biya at the helm, the election result is mostly a foregone conclusion. The French colonial government had established far-reaching emergency powers, and subsequent presidents in Cameroon have made full use of these powers to create these coalitions. Cameroon's first president, Amadou Ahidjo, dismantled rival political parties and centralized authority by offering elites government positions in a bloated state administration. He also curtailed political dissent, appointed regional governors, and oversaw the Cameroonian military. For many years, even travel across Cameroon required special government permits. These features persisted when Biya became president. He declared 9 states of emergency between 1982 and 1986. This is the Washington Post, writing in the past. The fact is, this is the past, this is the present, and this is the future of a country headed by a man determined to die in power. We will start off with our editorial. It comes from a young 11-year-old Ambazonian American.
young Ambazonian American, my father was just telling me earlier today that elections hold Sunday in next door Cameroon. We were walking into a shopping center to do groceries, and I was a little excited because I thought the wicked president will be voted out of office. When my father said he was still running for re-election, I asked him if this would be his second term. My father laughed as he answered. My jaw fell to the floor when he said the wicked president is running for his 7th term. I asked him, "Father, how is that possible? Are the term limits not limited to 2 for a total of no more than 8 years?" My father said, "Nope. Whatever term limits existed, the wicked president did away with it. That is how he has been reigning like a king for 36 years. I said, "What? Does he want to die in power? Is that not selfish? Why does the United States allow one man to stay in power for eternity? What about the United Nations and the African Union? If he were a great president, maybe I would not even care, but he is not, and the world knows. It is not like the world does not know. The world is closing its nose and doing business with a man who is executing women and children. How can that be? Does the world mean that if Cameroon was practicing slavery, the world would sit by and watch? Or did the world not consider that living under one man's reign of fear is slavery enough? How can the world be just watching, whereas his wickedness prevents my cousins from going to school, whereas he is destroying the country for generations unborn, whereas he is making it impossible for me to think positively about the land of my mother and father's birth? If the world does not care about the children who suffer the wickedness of such a president, can the world tell me why we are called a community of nations? I'm only 11 years old, and I truly would like to know. The United Nations think it is okay to have millions of people suffer so much pain, grief, misery, and poverty at the hands of one wicked man. Can someone please answer me?
Papa, you don't overwork, today time you don't come, what say you go rest, Papa? Papa, you don't overwork, today time you don't come, what say you go rest, Papa? Après le travail, c'est la retraite. Prends ta retraite. Go, papi, tu es fatigué. Go, papi, tu es fatigué. Go, papi, tu es fatigué. Go, papi, tu es fatigué.
We will return to more editorials, notably with editorialist Lambert Bomb. But for the moment, here is Innocentia with the first part of our news wrap-up for the week.
At the close of polls for today's presidential elections in La République du Cameroon, eyes will be watching to see what numbers come in from the occupied territories of southern Cameroons, now largely known as Ambazonia. Freedom fighters on ground zero in Ambazonia kept out political parties of colonial Cameroon, including the ruling CPDM and the main opposition party, the SDF, from campaigning across the territory. The ban, effective September 25th, reportedly caused enough insecurity, as sources say, prompting the BIA campaign to cancel a planned appearance earlier in the week in Bamenda. No candidate has held campaign events in Ambazonia. Joshua Osei, candidate of La République du Cameroon's main opposition party, the Social Democratic Front, has survived a near-fatal car crash and is home safe in Douala. Credible sources say he sustained minor bruises as candidates crisscrossed La République du Cameroon for runner-up status in the presidential election. In the meantime, Akere Muno and Maurice Kamto remain stranded in the northern region of Cameroon as Cameco cancelled their flight from Garoua back to Yaoundé, ensuring that both candidates just may not vote. Bridges and major roads continue to be cut off across Ambazonia as the fight for territory and who has control intensifies between freedom fighters and Biya occupation forces. Nkambe joined Ndop, Sabga, and some other cities and villages of the northern zone that either felled trees or dug trenches on major highways to cut off routes for La République du Cameroon soldiers. Ahead of elections in Cameroon, several U.S. senators, including Chris Coons and Tom Carper of Delaware, Cory Booker of New Jersey, and Dick Durbin of Illinois, as well as Representative Lisa Blunt of Delaware, released a statement October 4th condemning gross human rights violations carried out by Cameroon's security forces in southern Cameroon. Whereas some critics point out that the statement does not go far enough, others are highlighting the absence of any reference to Ambazonia restorationists as major points for likely amendments. In the meantime, the Ambazonia Restoration and Collaboration Council, ARC, issued a rebuttal Wednesday night following an initial U.S. House of Representatives statement that slapped the Cameroon government on the wrist while putting the burden of blame for the ongoing crisis on Ambazonia freedom fighters. The United Nations Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide, Adams Dieng, has called for immediate investigations into a wave of killings in Cameroon's English-speaking regions.
What is happening today? The crimes committed by both parties need to be properly and independently investigated, and the perpetrators of those crimes need to be brought urgently to justice.
Speaking to the BBC early in the week, he described the atrocities being committed in the country as concerning and said both sides of the conflict should sit around the table and dialogue to end the conflict. Ambazonians are still in disbelief and rapturous praise over the bravery and determination of compatriots in the motherland for organizing events marking the one-year anniversary of the Declaration of the Independence on October 1st, 2017.
You all in Ground Zero have proven to the world that your resolve for a free land, a free nation, cannot be stopped.
From Pinyin to Santa Batibo to Kom and anywhere in between, crowds gathered, some in their tens, others in the thousands. Raising the flag here and there to the tune of the national anthem. Kom was impressive with turnout and volume of activities, including a march past, traditional masquerades, displaying the blue and white flag, tens of groups in uniform, and speeches by freedom fighters.
Today not only mark our Independence Day, but not a Memorial Day. They will be sad and tears into our eye because of our people. Well, la Republic of Cameroon be killed on that day for Boya, Bamenda, and plenty places.
In Esu, His Royal Highness von Kum Achuo Kwazu II crowned a grand march past attended by parents and youths from across the village. Highlights included the playing of the national anthem, the hoisting of the flag of Ambazonia, speeches from the captain of Ambazonia freedom fighters, as well as the fun of Isu. Meanwhile, in Bafut, His Royal Highness von Abumbi II reassured his citizens and Ambazonians that his power is from the people of Bafut and that he stands first and always with the people. Still in Bafut, the council building has been taken over and now serves as command center effective October 6th for Ambazonia freedom fighters, reads an order by one D.A. Ngwabi. In addition to accepting the Naira and the US dollar for trading, it bans the use of the Cameroon franc, orders the shutting down of all bars, grounds all cars except medical and emergency vehicles, and commands traditional rulers to take office effective immediately.
This is number 10 Downing Street in London that has been blocked today, 1st of October 2018, by Southern Cameroonians as a sign of protest against what is happening back home.
Stay tuned for more stories that unfolded during the week. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, and I am Innocent Chia.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner for the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until we have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling.
Here is Innocent Chair again with the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
Defeating Ambazonia's common enemy, La République du Cameroon, has brought two strong men, Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga of Sokadef and Dr. Lucas Cho Ayaba of the AGC, to what many Ambazonians hope is a more convivial place. Speaking Friday morning, Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga acknowledged the indispensable support brought by the ADF as Sokadef battled La République du Cameroon forces into retreat in Mator, Meme State in the southern zone.
The battle for Mator is ongoing. There is no escape route for the terrorists. Sokadef has lost one of its finest soldiers, Corporal Sanda Clifford. The good news is that Clifford did not go alone. Sokadef, backed by all its neighboring camps and support from a friendly team from the ADF, has brought down more than 200 of the terrorists. I repeat, more than 200 of the terrorists have paid the price for invading Mator and our homeland. This is so far the bloodiest of all battles for the restoration of our homeland. It is bloodier than Operation Smooth that took place at Dadi with more than 186 slaughtered. There is no escape route for the terrorists, and Sokadef and all our defensive forces in that area have vowed that all those who have invaded Mator will not go back alive.
In an earlier audio Thursday, we have excerpts for this program. The leader of the Ambazonia Governing Council, Dr. Lucas Cho Ayaba, challenged opportunists who are both unfamiliar with his body of work in the Ambazonia restoration quest and his ties to other leaders, notably Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga. Barretta news sources are reporting a mutiny in La République du Cameroon's army in Wom. After allegedly losing over 20 men in Way, troops turned on their guns on their commander for making them believe that they had superior mystical Odeshi powers than the Ambazonia freedom fighters. In nearby Esu, more than 30 colonial soldiers and some Ambazonian freedom fighters are reported dead after intense fighting Wednesday into Thursday. Reports say a convoy of the Colonial Divisional Officer of Ndu, the Elections Cameroon Chief of Cambe, and two officers of the Rapid Intervention Brigade was ambushed in Tatum area by ADF forces. A fierce battle for Menji, LEBIALEM state in Ambazonia, is unfolding. Helicopters attempting to fly in voters from Chang into Menji have found no safe landing zone as the Red Dragons have blanketed the area around Menji Stadium, and a reinforcement of colonial forces from Chang has been ambushed by the Red Dragons in Alu. Unconfirmed reports say the fond of Mokbin, a small locality in LEBIALEM, and a lady who came in to prepare for the elections may have been killed.
Que Dieu vous bénisse pour le bon travail génocidaire dans la zone anglophone. Mais ça va se savoir.
The Bamenda Archdiocese has buried a young seminarian, Gerard Akiata,
just to say thank you to the Cameroonian military that just pulled out a young man called Jared Akita from the church and killed him.
Shot 3 times on the neck Thursday by Biak genocidal forces in Bamesinda.
God is using all this to expose the genocide that Mr. Porpia and his collaborators are carrying out in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon. Let us pray, because the worst is still ahead. Let us rise up and conquer fear and speak the truth and fight for justice so that peace will reign.
A press release issued by the Bamenda Archbishop Cornelius Eswa described Gerard Akiata as holding on to his rosary to the bitter end.
Beside his corpse, we saw his rosary on his blood.
On the eve of her presidential election, La République du Cameroon has reportedly embarked on a random stop, frisk and rob operation on many streets and targeted homes in Bamenda in the northern zone. Cameroon News Agency and The Times, a local newspaper in Ambazonia, are reporting a racketeering ring involving the Red Dragons and the colonial forces of Cameroon. Citizens in the LEBIALEM state are reportedly caught between the hammer and the anvil as they are getting killed and robbed by Biya colonial forces and further squeezed out of life by the Red Dragons. Armed individuals identifying themselves as Amber Boys have kidnapped Amadou Salifo Majale, a Bororo herdsman from his home in outskirts of Jakiri, Bui State in the northern zone. The sad event occurred Friday, 5th October 2018, according to family sources, and was perpetrated reportedly by an Amber group for Wasibe area. Ambazonia Calling joins Bororo rights groups in calling for an end to all abductions, the immediate release of all abducted, the end of extortion, and a stop to targeted attacks of Bororo herdsmen. Finally, there is a growing opposition to reports that France wants to send French Red Cross into southern Cameroon to offer humanitarian assistance. Observers suspect the French Red Cross could be French spies and military intelligence sent to carry out surveillance on the movements and activities of Amber self-defense groups. I'm Innocent Chia for Ambazonia Calling.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials.
As we heard in the news summary, Sokadev and ADF forces locked arms to fight La République terrorists in Mato, in Meme State, in the southern zone. Here is Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga explaining why this war is one the people of Ambazonia have to fight to defend themselves and win dignity for their people and freedom.
We never choose this war, yet it is a war we must fight with every amber of strength we have. For there is no good war, there is no better war, but this is a just war. A war we must fight to liberate our homeland. We must be prepared to go to prison. We must be prepared to be killed, but we must equally be ready to die for what we know is right. They came into our homeland. They attacked our parents. They razed down our villages. They rape our daughters and moms. They destroy our educational system. They make a mockery of our judicial system. They thingified us, depersonalized us, dehumanized us, and now they have imposed a deadly genocide on our homeland. This is the time we must fight as one man. We must fight as a people. We will listen to no calls for a ceasefire. We will only listen to a call for a frank negotiation for separation.
It was a beautiful week for Ambazonia, celebrations of the 1st of October, and tons of meditation as to what to do next. Lambert Mbom has our editorial for the week.
The videos from Ground Zero depicting the spectacular Independence Day celebrations last October 1st are worth their weight in gold the world over. From the hills of BOYO, where jujus draped in the signature blue and white Ambazonian flag thrilled a cheering crowd, through Ndu, where the Central Administration Office had the honor to have the Ambazonian flag flying, to the Grand March past on the field in LEBIALEM, where the Field Marshal, displaying a combination of military ingenuity and traditional swiftness, all momentary enjoyment on the Ambazonian dream that is here and yet still to come. Celebrations which took place across the Ambazonian territory in spite of the looming gloom and doom, drove home the enduring message of a resilient, defiant, and determined people with a single-minded pursuit of the restoration agenda. Ambazonians took the majestic step to hoist the flag, sing the anthem, and keep the revolutionary glare aglow. And the unspoken word seemed to be, "Let them dare us again," or in the words of brave soldiers, "Where them dey, where them dey." We must doff our hearts to these brave men and women on ground zero who defied the odds and proved to the world we mean business and are not backing down. In the land of Queen Elizabeth, Ambazonians showed up on 10 Downing Street to celebrate the independence Her Majesty botched and registered a strong resolve to bring this to fruition with or without our help. But where were Ambazonian sons and daughters of the US diaspora? The lackluster performance of the American Ambazonian crew is a danger worth alerting us all to. It would appear the American diaspora will torpedo this liberation and restoration train. The balance sheet of our Independence Day celebrations in the US is shameful. A botched trip to the United Nations, poorly attended fundraising gala, and disgraceful turnout on Sunday, September 30th at the White House. A yawning gap from last year's celebrations, and even last August 19th Unity March. Ambazonians in the United States must get their act together. We have caught the bushfaller syndrome where we believe we know it all and have it all, and just have to dole out money from our wallets, bark orders, and bully others. Money alone cannot restore our independence, but the resilience, defiance, and single-minded pursuit of the goal are golden lessons we must learn from ground zero. And yet, even as we celebrate, we must ask, what next? After ghost towns, schools shut down, what next? We have worked hard to ensure that there are no elections in Ambazonia on October 7th, a milestone in the restoration agenda. So what next? It feels like a missed opportunity. It would have been a worthwhile opportunity for Ambazonians to boycott the colonizers' elections and yet conduct elections of some sort. Maybe we could have organized and voted a leadership platform or a Catalonia-like referendum to demonstrate the will of the people. Ambazonians have developed a certain antipathy towards elections of any sort. We continue to postpone the complete restoration of Ambazonia by conducting this revolution like a news cycle or a fire emergency. While we seek out the what next, it cannot and should not just be the next 30 days, but also what is next in 2019. And so to Ambazonians in the United States of America, in a little over 30 days from today, Americans will go to the polls to elect governors, senators, and congressmen, among others. And so we must get together now and put our money and energy to get the much needed political clout in the US. There's more than enough work to do. Let's organize and in unison court the American people by getting involved in the political process. They will champion our cause. To each Ambazonian in the US, may November 6th be your next target date for action, and those who parade the corridors of power will listen to us when they feel our numbers. Therefore, volunteer, donate in any campaign, and go out. Get others to do so. Lambert Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out.
Welcome, Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta.
Ntumfoyn, thank you, and let us share views on the devil's wanted force of experience in patriotism as you find in the slogans of President Paul Biya today in his campaign.
Oh, please forgive me, Professor Tatamenta, for not believing anything about experience for Biya. What is his scorecard?
Ntumfoyn, when Lucifer Paul Biya took over the reins of power in 1982, he epitomized hope for a fresh start. He called his arrival the renewal after over 2 decades under former President Ahmadu Ahijo's extremely authoritarian rule. But after over 3 decades of tight-fisted ethnocentric stewardship coated with sugary promises of democracy and the purging of political rivals in the name of anti-corruption, Biya's Satanic Republic of Cameroon still has plenty of resemblance to the former regime, if not being actually worse. In a nutshell, Ntumfoyn, President Paul Biya is claimed to be the first patriot of the Satanic Republic of Cameroon. His patriotism is worse than that of Lucifer. Satan Biya's main work is to turn people away from the truth about their misery, to distort their understanding, to draw them towards insane ways of thinking, and to open their eyes to feel-good thrills of occult blood-sucking. Just see how agents of Satan are rushing to the blood-sucking Freemason cult to be feeding on the juicy blood of bishops and other clerics in Cameroon, which has now become the devil's empire.
Biya is obviously free to make any claim that fits his fancy, but what do you see, Professor?
Ntumfoyn, what I've seen is a country whose spacious skies and fruited plains have been trashed, polluted, vandalized, exploited, and defaced by the same person, Paul Biya, who calls himself the first patriot. On Biya's watch, one of the great attractions of patriotism in the Satanic Republic of Cameroon is that it fulfills his worst instincts. In the person of his demonic state, he is able vicariously to bully and cheat. Bully and cheat, what's more, with a feeling that he is profoundly virtuous.
Now that's a very big charge. Give me some specifics. What crimes specifically?
Senseless violence, election rigging and misruling, monstrous kleptocracy, blood-sucking, torture as state policy, and all the loathsome nonsense that goes by the name of patriotism. Ntumfoyn, how passionately one should hate him.
Oh, sure, I am no fan of his, but to our listeners, what has he done wrong economically?
Ntumfoyn, let's start even from the house where you've worked before. The World Bank, together with the International Monetary Fund, added more attention to the atrocities human rights situation in the demonic enclave after reviewing rather disturbing findings about the country's debt situation. For example, in the standings of 2016, the Satanic Republic of Cameroon occupied the 10th position of the 42 ranked. Going by the records of the World Bank, Cameroon by implication was then the most indebted country in sub-Saharan Africa, with a debt estimate of CFA $5,722 billion, francs rather. Ntumfoyn, based on the joint World Bank and the International Monetary Fund report, Cameroon currently is the most indebted country in Francophone Africa with an estimated public debt rate over 8%. The report released by the global financial bodies also indicated that Cameroon had an accrued external debt hitting $5,289. Today, Ntumfoyn, the loan-grabbing patriot, has plunged the Satanic Republic into more debt as he shamelessly tots his begging bowls around the world to China and all over the world. Of what first patriot Paul Biya inherited as economic wealth from Ahijo, he has sold 99% at giveaway prices.
It is not Ambazonia, but surely Biya would argue that Cameroon is rich and they have stuff to sell.
Ntumfoyn, Paul Biya has only 3 things to sell: the anthem, the flag, and the map of his Satanic Republic of Cameroon.
How amazing.
One amazing thing to find is that the Cameroon populace is accustomed to a permanently holidaying patriotic president, one who regularly gets lost in Europe and then finds his way back home. It is commonplace to hear Cameroonians say with contempt that patriotic President Paul Biya lives in Switzerland, where his children attend school and where he spends weeks at a time, and then he visits Cameroon once in a while.
I mean, Switzerland, of which he is probably a national to visit so often, isn't very cheap.
Some years back, the French press published reports indicating that the patriotic Paul Biya and his entourage lavishly spent $40,000 a day on 43 hotel rooms in Intercontinental Hotel in Switzerland. The most imponderable thing to avoid is that it is hardly ever announced when criminal patriot Biya leaves Cameroon. But his state-managed homecomings always receive rapturous publicity. Droves of ethnic supporters chanting ego-enhancing masturbatory messages and clad in fabrics with his patriotic smiling face embossed on them swarmed the Yaoundé International Airport, feeding on huge bottles of beer and dancing with intense emotions in the equatorial heat. Others line the streets right up to the Unity Presidential Palace, clapping and blaring songs of praise and welcome to their savior, Paul Biya. A long line of the country's top officials and their wives line up at the foot of the plane as a call to duty, shaking hands with their leader and giving him the pulse of the nation in snappy chit-chats.
Surely, as the patriotic president that he is, he gives interviews to explain why he's been away for so long, not?
Getting an interview with the patriotic Emperor Paul Biya is as rare as cat's droppings.
Prof, you have probably seen the videos where terrorist forces of La République du Cameroun stop Ambazonians, get them off of cars, line them up along the road and make them sing their national anthem.
Ntumfoyn, singing the national anthem of the Satanic Republic of Cameroon at gunpoint to be called a patriot is the deepest insult you can offer an Ambazonian. Patriotism to the Satanic Republic of Cameroon now means advocating plunder in the interest of the privileged classes of the Biya murderous national stealing empire. Ambazonians know that a nation man's country is not only a certain area of land, of mountains, rivers, and woods, stupefied individuals appointed to political office, but it is a principle, and patriotism is loyalty to that principle. Our purpose as Ambazonians now is to reclaim our ambacentric democracy itself. We affirm that when Ambazonians stand up and speak their minds and say Ambazonia can do better, that is not a challenge to patriotism. It is the heart and soul of Ambazonian patriotism itself.
Maybe Mr. Biya will challenge you and say, he likes to work from home, he likes to work from the hotel, he likes to work from abroad.
President Biya is neither working from home nor working remotely. Rather, the Satanic Republic of Cameroon is a country with a ghost captain at the helm, a Titanic knocking into one iceberg after another. Wrong is wrong, no matter who says or does it.
If we were doing this in Pidgin, Prof, I would say now that La République draws the show. What advice would you give our people with respect to patriotism?
I personally subscribe to a patriotism rooted in ideas that in turn are giving back to a country. But it's the ideas that I think of them when I'm feeling patriotic. I'm a patriotic Ambazonian because I revere the ideas that motivated the resort to self-defense by our homeland fighters and compelled them in many instances to put their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor on the line.
What ideals and ideas are you talking about exactly, Prof, and where do you find them?
It's all there in the Holy Bible, Ntumfoyn. All men are created equal and in God's image. They are endowed not by any blood-sucking demonic government, but by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Premier among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Government must be limited to protecting the peace and preserving our lives, properties, and liberties, and doing so through the consent of the governed. It's the right of free Ambazonians to rid themselves of a colonial, satanic Cameroonian terrorist government that becomes destructive of those ends, as our ground zero fighters are doing in a supreme act of courage and defiance. Ambazonians build and protect. They do not destroy like the Satanic Republic of Cameroon.
Oh, thank you very much, Professor Tata Menta, and see you next week. But this is what is called Unmasking the Devil.
Ntumfoyn, thank you for having me.
You have plenty of show yet to come, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
We just discussed patriotism there with Professor Tata Menta, but Ambazonians have a huge problem dealing with the truth sometimes and facing up to the truth and insisting that the right things be done. That is when we start hearing those funny expressions how we go do now. Here is Willie Brotade with our report.
Leave am so now is a pidgin English expression that means let it go or don't talk about it, which is often used to calm down or pacify anyone complaining about an issue with persistence, frustration, or anger. The leave am so now syndrome is what is killing Ambazonians now and has been killing us for the past 57 years. La République du Cameroon changes the constitution, the form of the state, from Federal Republic of Cameroon to United Republic of Cameroon and later on to the Republic of Cameroon. What is our response? Make we leave am so now. Their presidents, Ahidjo and Biya, change the constitution at will, take away our rights, and colonize our country. Make we leave am so now. They destroy all our financial institutions, steal our resources, squander all our money, and abandon us to fend for ourselves. Make we leave am so now. La République du Cameroon destroys our educational and legal systems, dilutes our prestigious culture with dubious mannerisms, theft, corruption, disrespect, disorderliness, promiscuity, and many other unsavory practices. Make we leave am so now. Fast forward to today. Frontline movements under the banner of ARC are blamed for not working hard enough and failing to collaborate, while the IG is accused of promoting division and fighting among various Ambazonian self-defense groups. Some of the groups are alleged to have embezzled and mismanaged funds meant for Ground Zero, while others are suspected to be working hard to take us to Yaoundé instead of Buea. Well, what do we say? Maybe we just leave am so now. We go fix am when we reach Buea. Which Buea? When shall we Ambazonians cure ourselves of the leave am so now syndrome? We are indeed our own worst enemy. Willie Brotade for Ambazonia Calling.
Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery, but let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideas, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love. For in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsels of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive Him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations.
That was Prince Ajua Alem with the Desiderata. American preacher Joel Austin and a priest of the Catholic Church have got two very powerful messages. They could have been delivered for Ambazonians exclusively. It is a message every Ambazonian should hear this Sunday. I will play first the Catholic priest, followed by Joel Austin. You need to hear this, you need to internalize this, you need to act on this.
I'd like to make an appeal in a special way to the men in the army. Brothers, each one of you is one of us. We are the same people. The farmers and peasants that you kill are your own brothers and sisters. When you hear the words of a man telling you to kill, think instead in the words of God, "Thou shalt not kill." No soldier is obliged to obey an order contrary to the law of God. In his name, and in the name of our tormented people who have suffered so much and whose laments cry out to heaven, I implore you, I beg you, I order you, stop the repression!
Blessed be the Lord who would not give us up. Blessed be the Lord for his unfailing love. The snare is broken and we have escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord. Blessed be the Lord.
I've heard it said, on the road to your destiny, halfway through, every person will be tempted to give up. Some turn around and go back. The others stay committed and keep moving forward. What's interesting is both people travel the same distance. One goes halfway back to where they started. The other goes halfway ahead and reach their goal. Committed people outlast the difficulty. Committed people stick with a relationship even though they have a right to walk away. Committed people go the extra mile and do more than they have to. Is there an area you've been tempted to give up in? Or just slack off, not be your best? God is saying, stay committed. Stay faithful. Stay loyal. Committed people reach the fullness of their destinies.
We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Veronique Vetimfe has got the week off, so I've got your rundown of the queens and kings of foolish for this week. Finishing in third position this week are presidential wannabes in neighboring Republic of Cameroon. The lineup of 8 is too long to cite exhaustively, but let's mention by name the 4 best known ones: Maurice Kamto, Akere Muna, Joshua Osing, and Cabral Libi. These 4 and the 4 other glorious unknowns who are on the ballot this Sunday have spent this past 2 weeks misleading the people that it is possible to win elections against a tyrant whose only goal of organizing the ballot is to win. Akere Muna, who could not campaign in his native Ngembu, had thrown in the towel in style by asking that the few people who were thinking about voting for him should now vote for Kamto instead. Joshua Osing, the SDF candidate, who was unfortunately involved in an accident we're glad he's safe, has been completely obliterated as the Bamileke wing of the SDF party seems to have signed up completely in full support for their countryman, Kamto. With Ambazonians having vomited the party of the man in Tarkun, the SDF is in its dying political bed. The contenders in this circus are in this game to help the dictator make the claim to the international community that he was indeed elected and that he runs a democracy. For helping the tyrant entrench his grip on power, the opposition contenders in Sunday's election are the third place finishers for the Nyamfuka of the Week. The runner of this week is the devilish, blood-sucking, utterly corrupt ruling CPDM or Chop People Their Money party. During the last fortnight of campaigns, the CPDM monsters proclaimed that they will use witchcraft, tricks, rigging, and whatever crimes it takes to hang on to power. The CPDM staged a hold-up on the nation's legal, administrative, and security system, abusing it for themselves. They staged a hold-up on the Treasury, using the funds stolen from it to rent and bus crowds of soldiers to their rallies. Ever since Saturday, they are openly paying for votes. The diaper-wearing and walking dead candidate of the CPDM made all but one appearance in Marwa, where his speech was a stupid threat on Ambazonian liberation fighters, and his most visible banner was a reminder to the people of that region that a regime takes them for sheep. The vandals of the CPDM tore down the campaign posters of rivals, they prevented rallies from holding in places like Ebolowa, they handed out sardine tins and bread, and even paid out counterfeit money to those too hungry for bribe money. For working so hard to maintain a monster in power whose only job description can be waiting to die, the CPDM regime is the runner-up for the title of Nyamfuka of the Week. Finishing in first position this week and claiming the crown of shame is a surrogate for the colonizer, a certain Miss Seraphine Besson, who published an article this week threatening Ambazonians. The piece, forwarded on social media with an introduction that misled people into thinking that it was written by Eric Chinje, promises Ambazonians that they will have no other choice than to face aerial bombardments in a war against them that will include the French and the Chinese soldiers. Ms. Besson says Ambazonians should start mass production of coffins. Dreaming that the Biya dictatorship can be toppled at the ballot box during elections organized to entrench them in power, for still dreaming that Ambazonians will settle for a federation in 2019, for not yet realizing that Africa's youngest nation, albeit not yet recognized, is Ambazonia, Ms. Seraphine Besson is this week's hands-down winner of the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan of blessed memory aptly defined genocide as the killing of an individual not for what he or she has done, but for who they are. Ambazonians have long argued that this is the crime unfolding in their homeland. They are no longer alone in doing so, as Barrister Manjong Jutambe now reports.
For many years now, the loud cries of the people of Ambazonia have solicited nothing but shameful criminal silence from the international community. Organizations have long held a very worrying silence, continuously looked the other way, and ignored alarm bells and cries for assistance. This is the kind of silence that speaks volumes. From the halls of the African Union in Addis Ababa to the Plaza of the United Nations in New York, from number 10 Downing Street in London to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, two capitals that are most to blame for the crisis have been the enablers, shouting and urging on the Biya genocidal regime. Lately, a major shift is occurring in world perception of the crimes unfolding in the Cameroons. For starters, more voices are pointing out that Ambazonians, a distinct nation and a distinct people from their neighbors of La République du Cameroon, are being killed for nothing other than who they are and their stubborn insistence on defining themselves as such. Over the past few days, we've heard from the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Barrister Charles Taku, who unambiguously called the activities of La République du Cameroon in Ambazonia genocide. In expressing his dissatisfaction against La République du Cameroon, the learned jurist did not mince words. It is unprecedented. It is a genocide happening in the southern Cameroons in the Gulf of Guinea. Not surprisingly, he lamented the UN's failure to act more forcefully and the African Union's unquestioned palpable silence. Ambazonians are fighting to defend themselves. Their fight back is a matter of international law and a people's right to exist, Barrister Taku declared on record. This must worry the Republic of Cameroon and Nigeria. It is statements like these from the senior prosecutor of the International Criminal Court that keep rogue heads of states awake at night. Quoting the Rohingyas' jurisprudence while reminding Nigeria of its duties as a signatory to the 1998 Rome Statute, Mr. Taku warned La République du Cameroon of the long arm of the International Criminal Court's reach, irrespective of them not being signatories to the statute. Because Nigeria is a state party, its actions to aid and abet La République du Cameroon's genocidal actions in Ambazonia, to include the arrest and rendition of Ambazonian refugees to La République, are elements of genocide that run contrary to the spirit of the Rome Statute. Most reasonable jurists would agree that such actions by Nigeria, without much more, should and must warrant conferring the International Criminal Court jurisdiction to the Ambazonian question. Following in the footsteps of Mr. Charles Taku is the UN Special Advisor on Genocide Prevention, Mr. Adama Dieng. Mr. Dieng has also called for immediate investigation into the wave of killings in Ambazonia, describing the atrocities being committed in Ambazonia as concerning. Mr. Dieng added the following.
I mean, in this so far conflict, you have more than 400 people killed in both sides. You know, we have seen atrocious images in both sides of crimes allegedly being committed.
He urged both sides to sit around a table and dialogue to end the conflict. He stressed the fact that crimes committed by both parties need to be properly and independently investigated and perpetrators brought urgently to justice so that the people of Cameroon know that no one is above the law. This is another excerpt from Mr. Dieng's interview on the BBC.
And that's why I cannot but insist that the best way also to address this issue is, on one hand, the political dialogue, and on the other hand, the justice démarche. And let's only hope that the election will go smoothly and that at the end of the day, peace will prevail.
It is clear that the noose is slowly but surely tightening around the necks of La République du Cameroon and its genocidal officials, with Mr. Paul Biya leading the pack. Though a UN Security Council referral may be required to get a full range of violations by La République and other state actors charged by the ICC, Article 5 of the Rome Statute covering genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes is readily available for any well-intentioned prosecutor to whom Ambazonia's case against La République du Cameroon will be handed. Happily for Ambazonia, the Rohingya case gives full legal basis and direction as to what they and other state actors may expect, when, not if, their case comes before the International Criminal Court. This is Manjang Jude Ambe, reporting for Ambazonia Calling.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, where have you been the past 2 weeks? Were you not supposed to be out there, traveling and campaigning for your reselection? Do not tell me that the witch doctors of Mvomoka, Sangmelema and Ebolowa offered all those animals and human sacrifices for nothing in the city square. They want you to remain Kunkuma forever. They want you as the king of the Banana Republic of Angola until death do us part. Although you were not at the starting line for the marathon, it was great to see you start the race towards the finish line when you made that apparition in Marwa. Everyone thought you would finish in style, maybe at the square Carrefour Tamzu in Obaloba. They don't know what happened after you returned from Marwa. Did you just pass out, as I suspect you did? I mean, age is no respecter of persons and titles. There is nothing you can do about time pass, about years spent, or in your particular case, about years wasted at the helm of the Banana Republic of Angola. It is just nature, Joshua, a time to be born, a time to grow old, and a time to die, which in your case, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, is coming pretty soon. I know you never want to hear about death. It terrifies you to actually know that you are mortal. You should have been referred to as his born-to-rule immortalness. Did you hear about the things the French are plotting in your back, Joshua? Apparently, you have shot out grandson Manu Macron. How do you do something like that? How can the workers throw out the owner of the vineyard? When they refuse to sell you an aircraft, you borrow from the Chinese. When they would not provide you with the weapons you need to kill Ambazonians, you buy from the Israelis. When they start plotting how to take you out of Itudi, you build a second and a very secretive bunker right down there in the basement of the main palace building. Good for you, Joshua. Besides, as you know, the French are who you know them to be. They are looking to chop off your head. They will assign one soldier right up close to you to send you to Gehenna. Now that you are chaffed to them, many are just begging to be the next puppet and the next governor of the overseas French Banana Republic of Angola. Stop wasting your time taking comfort in the belief that your soldiers are faithful to you. Where is Thomas Sankara? Soldiers who have been trained to kill without feeling guilt will do whatever is required of them. That is, Just it. Monkey see, monkey do. Have you heard what everyone is saying about all those bribes you are rushing to hand out to everyone who visits Etudi to score your performance? The UN Secretary General comes calling, and before he has said, "Good morning, Kunkuma," you answer, "Here, Mr. Secretary General, is a 1,000 carat of gold statue, especially packaged for your bank account." Same to the Secretary General of Commonwealth. And last week, to prevent the disgrace that will come with your being rejected as the host of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, Etofis brought the beggars from CAF to your doorstep, and from the loot of the people's wealth, you offered yet another trophy, so that CAF can stupefy itself by declaring that they do not have a plan B. How can there be a plan B for the Africa Cup of Nations when there is no plan B for the succession at Etudi? Na the sick way do coffee, na you do cocoa. At least the CAF fellow showed up for you, even if he had to hitch a ride in Eto's limousine. As for those you always passed around for your friends, no one has been seen in 2 weeks of campaigns. Everyone dug a hole and ran deeper into it as Ambazonian restoration forces enforced a 24/7 lockdown, occasionally letting off that scary cry for blood where them day. Despite promising to campaign by night or day using witchcraft, jazz, mungang, and science, Elvis Ngolengole hid himself in Yaoundé, offering himself to be destroyed by the BBC reporters in interviews where he said, "I don't know anything about economics." Peter Mafani Musonge, the best man to head the Bilingualism Commission if the other language was Bakweri, is missing in action. Did you hear that he did not even provide a translation into English for the slogan which you plagiarized from the last campaign of President Omar Bongo of Gabon? I mean, left on their own, Ambazonians have determined that la force de l'expérience must mean the most experienced in election rigging. To explain his absence from the campaign trail, I have been told that Philomen Yang is circulating tall tales of him dodging amber bullets, masquerading as the Oko Juju in order to smuggle himself out of Ngemseba, and escaping with the skin of his teeth from amber boys waylaying him in NGOKETUNJIA. As for Atanganji, he commandeered the stationing of 1,000 B officers outside and around the conference hall in Abakwa town in order to open the floor for the CPDM campaign with one Bangalum song, and then he disappeared. I mean, he's never been heard from again. The long and short, Joshua, is that you are alone, my friend. That is why you should be careful when you make those braggadocious claims, like the one you just made from Marwa, with your diaper dripping from the leakage in your pipes, that you will crush Ambazonian freedom fighters. Hardly had you said it than your terrorist soldiers were made to take a huge kick to the teeth in places like Andek in MOMO, Alo and Menji in LEBIALEM, and especially in Mato in Meme State. As you may one day learn, talk is cheap, Joshua. If your army had some real soldiers in its ranks who really knew what it means to go to war and followed the laws of war, they would not be going around seeking out and executing women, children, and toddlers. They would not be burning down the elderly in their homes. They would not be pulling seminarians like Gerard out of the church with his rosary still in his hand and the young man still praying to Our Lady and shooting him dead outside the parish house. Last October 1st, Ambazonian freedom fighters, without so much as firing one shot, defied every single curfew and broke every interdict your regime claims they have put in place to organize celebrations commemorating the first year anniversary of Proclamation of Independence restored. All across Ambazonia, our people enjoyed a brief moment of peace as Ambazonian freedom fighters cleared their city centers of all colonial administrators and occupation forces so that our people could just party for 1 second. In many places, your baby-killing terrorists folded up their tails into their hind legs and took off, only like Ngong dogs do, even before Amba fighters had fired one chavum. I am annoying, right? How can I disagree with that? It must be especially irritating that you have to read this letter from me while popping those champagnes to celebrate your stolen victory at the masquerade that you call elections. In between sips on the flute, please think about how Amadou Ahijo lowered that ladder to you to raise you to power. The selfish fellow that you are, you have paid back
future generations by pulling into the sky and destroying that ladder. The one ladder that empowers them politically, but also the ladder that they needed to climb out of poverty, out of misery, out of disease, out of joblessness, and now out of the war you have brought to the once peaceful piece of land that they enjoyed in the Gulf of Guinea. I was going to sing a little rhyme that we sang as youngsters. Shame, you know this shame, shame. But I cannot even waste that on you, Joshua, because you sold shame a long time ago and you bought the Mami Wata to whom you have been seeking so desperately to offer the people of the Banana Republic of Angola and the people of next door Ambazonia as sacrifices. We are not waiting for the results of the selection of this Sunday, Joshua. We have seen this film before. We know who the main actor is. We know who the chef bandi is. We know who the culprit and the victims are. We know that darkness wins. We know that the Supreme Court, at your supreme command, will certify the results, corrected in the colonial governors and divisional officers' offices, that must, every one of them, under penalty of death, show that the successor of the eternal God of the Banana Republic of Angola is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, until and way beyond the second coming of Jesus Christ. Joshua, you know the shame.